Well, today we need to replace this fan, the left fan, on I believe this is 2021 MacBook Pro 16-inch. So the left fan is not working. So we're gonna replace that. To actually get the cover off, the cover goes like this. There's gonna be 2 or 3 or 4 clips here. You have to undo the clips by prying this much part open and then just sliding it off. That should get you that part off, and these are the clips. One here, there would be one here, and one here. The screws for the back panel is a 1.2 P1.2 screw, and then there's other ones involved too. But main thing, first thing is to disconnect the battery before anything. So let's get to that. And this is a T4, torque bit 4. So once you got those 2 things off, might be worth just arranging it so that later on when you put it back together, it's easier to do. You pretty much have to take this entire logic board out because the screws, there's 4 screws underneath the logic board that are screwing the fan in place. So you'll have to disassemble the entire surrounding. Next thing, trackpad. We'll unclip the trackpad. Everything is practically as gently as possible. Once you have that off, there's going to be this cable, and the battery is actually connected underneath. So you're going to have to actually pry open the cable underneath, and that's one of those flipping cords, and you have to actually pull the cable out from it. So it pulls out after you flip open the actual piece, and then there's a screw bit underneath. So let's try, it's a T4. I'll use a T6. So the battery screw is a T5, torque bit 5, and that comes off as such. You can keep that separate, and then just lift it over so it's open. It's disconnected now. Next we'll actually pull these off. These are the similar ones, so it actually has a tab that you need to pull up the entire thing. So once you have that lifted up, you can actually use the sticky part to pull the ribbon cable out. Same thing with the one next to it. So to lift up on that, I'm just using my nail, but you can probably be better with this. Use the sticky bit, pull it open. So you can see those are all disconnected. So this section is disconnected. Next main thing is to worry about is to actually, when you disconnect the fan, that's also the clip on part. So you would pry open this part and then lift up the tab and then pull back on the cable to unplug. The main thing to worry about is actually to pull the cable. There's a sticky adhesive holding the cable onto the motherboard, the logic board. I would pull that over. I would detach it from the logic board, because when sometimes you're lifting the logic board off, that sticky part will stick to the logic board, and you will actually accidentally potentially like rip the cable, which is what happened on this side. You can see this part right here. You can do all the unscrewing you want to, but the actual adhesive holding the fan cable here, because the fan cable is supposed to be separate from the logic board, it'll hold on and you can potentially rip the cable, so you need to replace the fan. Okay, so next step, we'll remove the bottom screws that are necessary. So the main ones are these 4 on the bottom, and then these on the side. It looks like it's a T5 here as well. I believe you don't need to remove this one, because that's just holding the back plate piece in. So 4 screws on the bottom there, and then you're probably going to need to change the bit, so it's going to have to go to a T4, torque bit 4, to undo this piece. And this piece, which there's also another screw on the top right there. And that, you can see, lifts open this piece. It'll be smart to organize it, like as I mentioned before, so you're not so confused later on. Go. 2 of those pieces. There's that, and there is this. So I got this magnetic thing that's holding everything in place, so I really like that. I would recommend that. So when you remove those 2 things, actually there's 2 ribbon cables right underneath. Across this whole thing, there's just a whole bunch of protection panels holding the ribbons in place. That's practically all you need to remove, and then the main pieces for the logic board being held in place. So I'm just gonna go around and removing all the protection panels, and then I'll go into removing the cables itself. And these are for the main ports, like the USB-C port, audio port like aux port, HDMI port, power cable, etc. Again, I would recommend placing the screws where in a logical order once removed. So I'll probably fast forward here so that, you know, the entire process is shortened up. This is the display cables right here. These are really hard to put back in place, but you should be able to do it afterwards. And this looks like the last protecting piece for the ribbon cables. Okay. All those were done with T4 all the way around. Now I'll go ahead and carefully pry open all these ribbon cables. The only other thing that you'd have to remove is the antenna that's running across all the way. and the Wi-Fi, that connection that's coming in to that. That once that's removed as well, then you should be able to take the whole thing off. So let's get to that part here. So gently pry these pieces up. This one is back. And this one, go. So that's the entire side here. I would move the cables as far as they go away from the actual piece so that when you open it, you don't damage any of those. Now the display cable. All right, and then this side. Three cables on this side, a bunch on this side, honestly. Okay, so once that is all done, next thing to not forget about is the antenna, and then the antenna connection back to the logic board. I believe that could just be in a more T4 cables or T4 torque bit screwdriver usage. Should be 3 screws there to deal with. And those are different, they're black, specifically colored. Once that's done, you can go ahead and pry open the cables associated to the Wi-Fi. Try to be gentle. There we go. So all 3 cables are undone there. Now, straight across. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across, and then 9 little screws. These are longer screws. So what I'll do is I'm gonna keep all the antenna ones right in front of me so that I don't lose track of where each thing goes. Actually, I don't think you need to take this off. What I'll do is remove this one. Cross, and then switch over to a 0.8, P.8 tiny screws, so be careful, don't lose them. But actually I would recommend keeping those on the magnet. Very easy to lose, honestly. There we go. So let's see. the antenna is this part right here. That is removed, but I believe you do have to remove those. So going back to a T4, removing these screws. Boom. There we go. And go ahead and remove the antenna. Right, so all the cables are removed at this point. Now just removing the logic board attachments. Those are probably all T6 screwdrivers. Let's check. Yep, looks like it. So two other screws apart from the main logic board ones that you'd have to remove. Are these two. Let me see, I believe it was, let's check. This might be too big, but 4.5. It's a unique socket that you'll need to remove it. It's almost like a deep socket, but 4.5 is what I'm using here to remove that. Sweet. So that should do the tear down section. Now carefully move all the ribbon cables out of the way. Ensure there's no other cables or screws that are holding it in place. It should be very easy to remove. There shouldn't be any crazy amount of physical force that you have to put on the logic board, so do be careful of that. Make sure the adhesive sections are removed and the battery is fully obviously disconnected. And then this part you'll just lift and then pull out, slide it out. So try to be gentle. Let's see. If there's anything holding it in place, it'll definitely won't lift up. There we go. Piece is coming up. Pull all the cables out of the way. Move away. There's that. There you go. So that's the logic board of the MacBook Pro 2016. Place that somewhere safe. And then let's just get straight to the fan section. So it's gonna have this like little adhesive. So the main things are right underneath actually. So it's gonna be hidden, these two screws underneath, and then the two on the other side. Let's check here. Check, it looks like a T4. Yep. Then 2 on this side, also T4. That should remove the fan. There you go. You can save this piece, or if your replacement has it, use it. Don't use it. If it's missing, you can pull this piece off and then place that basically back on. I believe our replacement fan came with that rubber piece, which is nice. Cool. So just definitely go ahead and inspect the new fan, make sure everything is good, clean. You can just go ahead and replace. Let's just get back to it. We'll speed this part up and just, you can see it all at the end. See, obviously this one has this piece. So now run backwards. It did have little adhesive pads like these, but those are like, I would say, one-time use. You could try to place them back because, you know, it's pushing against the logic board. But it all depends on if you have any adhesive left on that original piece. Okay. Now I would put the entire thing back, but just be very careful of the fan cables, obviously. And again, kind of slide it underneath. Be very careful of all the cables that are just kind of all over the place. There's gonna be 3 on the left. And then the thing is, you have to lift these rubber pieces up as well, because they do go above it. This is gonna be the hard part, really. Just be careful. Gently place all the cables back. Push the other cables out of the way, so it's not damaging anything. So the thing about the display cable has to actually bend underneath where that logic board is so I can open up and down. All the clearances are checked, all the cables are good. 3 cables, 4 cables. That's set, just kind of align the screws in the right spot. Now just reattach everything slowly. I would start with the antenna, just because that has the small pieces, and then the major structural pieces as well. Again, going back to the T6. There we go. There we go. And then I would actually switch over to that 4.5 bit, the unique one, and then I would go diagonal, just these 2 pieces over here as well, because they're pretty big as well. There we go. Might actually be 3.5, but 4.5 seems to work pretty well. There we go. Now the logic board's pretty much in place, plugging everything back into place very slowly and very delicately. That's very important. I'll start with the fan, just because it's where everything went wrong. Plug it in place, attach it back, adhesive underneath. Plug it in place, push the tab in, press it down, adhesive in place. Fans are done. Display. Display is tricky for sure. I'd actually put all the little screw that's holding the motherboard back in place. Mainly because it'll help make sure the motherboard doesn't move too much while you're working here. The logic board. Four screws on the bottom, as before. There we go. Everything back in place. Motherboard. Logic board's definitely back in place. Now just take your time putting the cables back into the same spot. That will take very kind of delicate work, really, to put it back in spot. Now connecting the 3 cables, ribbon cables. In my opinion, these ribbon cables are a lot easier to work with than the clips because you're pretty sure they went in when they went in. Pretty obvious when they connect. That's what I'm saying. You can go ahead and start up everything to make sure things are working. Last thing I'd do is probably putting the antenna piece back, just because that has a lot of signal and a lot of little cables. There we go. Shift it into spot. I go for the 0.8p. Right, now you can connect these pieces back in. Again, be very careful when you attach the antenna piece back. Align it as much as you can before you press. In. Oh, this one's in. Other cables in spot. Pretty much the rest is all just covering up the little pieces. What I would do at this point is connect the last 2 pieces, which is the battery, back in the spot, and test if everything is working correctly before connecting all the ports back. antenna piece. No, just a few more. Okay. Now just the main piece. With all that, now I would turn it on. So let's try it. Once everything is back in place, you're gonna have to plug in the computer to get it to start up the first time, which I actually just did. So it was starting up, but obviously we replaced this fan, so we want to make sure the fan is working, right? For that, I'll show you on screen a specific app, but I've already downloaded a fan control app. I'm gonna custom a full speed fan run on the left and then the right. There you go. Both the fans are working, functional, and giving voltages back. So that is the successful fan installation. Voila. Now the main thing, just no extra screws is one thing. There should be 4 large and 4 small screws. Large screws go on the top, small screws go on the bottom. And it's just like the same way these hooks claw onto the actual board here. So you will place it, slide it on. Slide it on. This part is really difficult, actually. This is the in my thought process, this is the difficult part in the installation. the back cover. They've really made it hard to work with the update. Go, push in all four corners, back in the spot, close, and then back to the 1.2 P1.2 screws, thick long screws. They go right down the top. Now, I'll do the screen sharing and I'll show you how to test the fans and make sure they're working. But obviously we want to also check for all the ports because you did unplug the ports. So I'll check power for all the ports. Charging. And there's only one of those, so you can check the HDMI afterwards, but I've already checked the main power MagSafe one as well. So there's that. Thanks.